Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, 3rd of August, and topic Shaytan. Taharat. And regarding Shaytan, it's a very interesting topic, and I hope Allah will help me to be able to raise the issue properly, because sometimes, not always, you can make this point clear. Before I start that, I would like to start with questions I've remained from previous weeks. There was one question, but the person who sent the question is not here, so probably I'll leave that for next session. What you have to learn for understanding of of Shaytan, and many other things in Quran, understanding of it is very much relates to understanding of nafs, as I said, and because we want to understand things and foresee, and also in understanding of this, we also have to understand the universes, which was awalim, which we discussed before. What we talk here first is what is called potencies of nafs. They also refer to this as faculties. You might see this word as faculties. Why I have used potencies? Because, as I said, I want to have a clear reference to someone's translation, and I have chosen the text and materials of Professor Chitik, the American professor, which is very good in this type of topics. So he has also, I think he has said faculties, but he has said he prefers to use the word potency, and I take it that he knows English better than me in this context especially. Nafs, everyone's nafs had 7 potencies, or quwat. In Arabic, is it correct to say quwat? Quwa. The plural of it will be what? Plural. Quwa is single, isn't it? And plural. Quwa. Okay. But the writing is correct with te at the end? The writing that I put there, you can't see, with the ta at the end. Is it written like that in Arabic?
Did it write it here?
No, you can't see, because our projector is very...
The single is without alif.
Without? Okay. And without te or with te?
It's a single with te,
Okay, well... Alright.
I think without
alif maqsur. I know what is alif maqsur. Okay, the 7 potencies are 5 senses plus khiyal plus wahy. We all know what are the senses, so we don't need to talk about senses. And the other thing is khiyal, which I think we have spoken about khiyal in the past, so there is no problem about khiyal or imagination. Khiyal is imagination. And the other is wahy. It's very important that we learn wahy. What is wahy? Wahy, I know by default, Persians, Iranians and Arabs, and maybe Afghanis too, they refer to it usually as khiyal sometimes. Am I right? But in technical terms, wahy is not khiyal. In technical terms, wahy is, let me show one of these. In technical term, as you see, I don't know if you can read any of those writings, but the top was, you start from alam al-ilah was alam al-aq, right? If you see underneath, I have made alam al-aq 2 ways. Let me see. Here, let's put it this way. This is as a whole, it shows the relationship of aq and wah. What does that mean? That means the bottom of the aq is wah. So this means, they call it, they say aqlus saqit. Aqlus saqit. Saqit means descended. Descended aql is wah. So they have very similar nature, but definitely they are very different as well. I'll go back to this. Wahm in English, I just wanted to show you the place of it in this hierarchy of universes. In the hierarchy of universes is aql. You used to know, you always thought is aql and then khiyal and then matter, madde. But it is still the same hierarchy, but just before khiyal and lower than aql is wahm.
Before khiyal.
Yeah, it's between khiyal. Wahm is, they say, qawwa wahm or potency of wahm has one look, one side of it looks at khiyal, one side of it looks at aql. So that means it's between aql and khiyal. So in English they have, I saw again Professor Chitik had translated this into sense intuition. Sense intuition shows that it is sense related, but in the meantime it has got a degree of disengagement. You all remember disengagement? Tajarrud?
Yes.
Abu Nur, you were here when you discussed disengagement? You said, I just do this once more quickly. Ahsan. That's tajarrud, yeah? In Arabic we understand it even better, right? So it has got a level of tajarrud, definitely. There is no matter in it. So it is mujarrad. But it is not mujarradul aqli, because it does not reach to aql. It is mujarrad from matter, it is mujarrad from khiyal too, but it doesn't reach to aql. Then what is it? We still need more explanation as to what type of thing it is. I read from what a definition of Professor Chitik about it. Says sense intuition, the perception of an intelligible. Remember, intelligible was ma'qul, right? Something which if you think about this becomes ma'qul, right? Perception of intelligible. When we want to do idrak of a ma'qul, idrak of ma'qul. I'm trying purposely use these words because these words are more meaningful in the context. Idrak was understanding, right? Idrak of this at the highest level makes it ma'qul for me. I become aqil, this becomes ma'qul. So the perception of intelligible meaning while attributing the meaning to a particular sensory thing. What does that mean? That means, do you remember I said, look at this and what are you all could see this. So the sense of sighting or seeing is used. So at first level of idrak or first level of perception was you using your sense, that's seeing it. The second level was, I said, close your eyes and have the picture in you. That was in alam al-khiyal, right? You all remember that? It is in alam al-khiyal. Then I told you, close your eyes and think about the universality of this, the purpose of a telephone, a mobile phone. You all understand the purpose of a mobile phone. That purpose itself is in alam aql. Purpose of mobile phone, that's something which makes me communicate while I'm on the move. For instance, while I'm on the move, I can use a mobile phone, right? Or, can I borrow your pen? If you do this with this pen, to do one level of tajarrud is you close your eyes, you have the picture, you have made one level of tajarrud. And again, another level of tajarrud, you make it ma'qul or intelligible for yourself. That means when you think about that instrument which you can write with, right? That instrument you can write with. It doesn't necessarily mean you're not talking about this pen. You're not talking about anything that we can write with. Even later on you will learn that even aql itself, aql is something that it writes, and nafs is something like nafs. Is something which is written on it. Aql is the writer, nafs is like a piece of paper. So even aql, later on we learn, when we close our eyes, we want to do ta'aqqul about, you want to think of, in alam aql, of something which writes. It can be even aql. It can be this pen, it can be anything. It can be chalk, you write it on a, what do you call, blackboard. And these pens on the whiteboard. These are all pens. Okay? Now, at the same time, if you can think of the same, this is very important, and I want Allah to help me to make it understand. It's difficult for me to say it, but it's not difficult to understand. The same universality of this pen for this pen only. Because at the previous stage, you think about something you can write with, not this pen. That is aql. But if you bring that something that you can write with to this particular pen, universality of pen in this particular pen. So another word, this becomes wahm. Another word, individuation. They call it individuation. When you attribute something of alam aql to an individual thing where you can see it. The writing of a pen, when it comes to this pen, becomes wahm. I know I was not able to say it very good, but looking at your faces, when you go one level up from alam khiyal, right? Alam khiyal had only the image. The same thing, without the material part of it, was alam khiyal. That's the picture and the image in your imagination. Now you go one level higher, you reach to the meaning of the universality of a pen that can write. Okay, a pen that can write. Now if you are able to bring that meaning into only this pen, but only from that aspect, that is an instrument that you can write with. You have the meaning, universal meaning of a pen, but only for this pen, not for, because if the meaning, there is a meaning for pen as a whole, as a universal meaning. But when you attribute, you apply that meaning to one pen, that's the moment you are into individual, so something out of that very general meaning. It comes back to an individual pen. That is called wahm. Wahm is higher than alam khiyal. It's not only an image. It's not an image. Is lower than alam aql. It's not that very universal pen that does not relate to this. Because when you think of universal pen, you do not think of this. But if you can bring it, that the meaning of the universal pen, you can bring it to this pen, that becomes wahm. Okay, I know. Sorry.
Why it becomes wahm?
The reason it becomes wahm, because the moment they say in Arabic or Farsi, they use the word of juz'iyat. Attention to juz'iyat is wahm. You know juz'iyat? Attention to juz'iyat is wahm. Attention to kulliyat is aql. Right? So the difference between aql and wahm is aql is about kulliyat, is about universalities, but wahm is about juz'iyat. Juz'i in English they say individuality. The individuality, that this very pen is a juz'i, it's not something kulli.
What universality in
kulliyat. Kulli. So anything in alam al-kulli, in universal of anything in alam kulli, in the anything in alam kulli, when you think about the meaning of it and you do not bring it down to any. Let me give you another example. Say we talk about water. Okay, water, when it's in the material level, we all know what it is. When you disengage it one level, you imagine just the image of the water is in your mind. That's another level. That's mujarrad in your khiyal. Then you make another level of tajarrud. You take it to I'm going based on my today's order. I'm not going to aql now. First matter, then khiyal, then wahm, then aql. Okay? You go this way. water. Water, I will wait because I want Abu Nur to understand this. Yeah.
Can we talk about what is another universe, or is it included in the universe of Allah by a lower surface?
Part of the universe.
They are
Part of the universe of Allah.
See, the point here is you can categorize universes in many different ways. Shahwat or qadab, they do not make they are not any tool for any idrak or any understanding, isn't it? Like when you do, for instance, shahwat is only using the sense of lamase, is touching. Otherwise, itself is not a wasila for making any idrak. So, do you understand? Do you see the?
Sometimes for sometimes when you hear something, could be when I say something bad for you, your Arabic will be go up because you will become mad. I mean, because you hear somebody said something bad to you, and this is what nafs, if you control this force, that we are controlling the Quwwah Arabiya, and also the Quwwah Shahwiyya. If you see sin or texture or things, it comes to you change you from status normal to abnormal, and also this thing I think.
هذه هي صفات هذه الأدوات هذا الغضب وهذه صفات هذه الأدوات اللي تستعملها.
Abu Nur, I think the difference between adawat and what did you say? Sifat. That make it a bit more clear. The thing is, we are talking about the adawat or the tools of nafs for understanding, right? These tools, Allah has put them in the nafs for understanding or idrak. But huwa ghazabiyya and shahbiyya and shaytaniyya, there is another thing, shaytaniyya. These are all three. They are not a tool for any understanding. They are something that exists in the nafs because of combination of matter with ruh. But they also, I have seen that in many writings refer to them as quwwah, because the fact that they refer to them as quwwah, that makes this confusion. That's why I try here, I say potency, so that we do not mix up this with those things. So potency or what in this sense context is a tool that exists in the nafs for understanding. So those quwwat are like attributes of the nafs, inside the nafs. Let's not call those quwwah, but I know they are referred to as quwwah. So 5 senses plus khiyal plus va, there are the 7. Is there anything we have left out of tools of understanding and quwwatul nafs and potencies of nafs? Ahsan. So we have left out aql, okay? Alright, that's probably the most important tool of idrakat.
So what do you mean by idrak?
Idrak means understanding. Understanding. See the whole issue that do you remember once I discussed about hayat and death in one of our sessions, and we sort of concluded that hayat and maut, or hayat and death, or life and death, are not what we have perceived so far. By default we know that death means I lose this material body and then I become alive in alam barzakh. That
you explain death is the change of status.
Change of status, exactly. Then we talked about, I spoke very shortly about the issue that hayat, the real hayat is idrakal ilmi, understanding something. So then if you remember, we compared the understanding of a plant. Do you remember understanding of a plant was very little bit of understanding of a solid thing, like water compared to plant has very little understanding. At least plant has more idrak, there is motion in it. And then we compared haywan, animal, with plants, right? We saw there is more and understanding, because at least haywan has got 5 senses, whereas plant has got only probably 1 sense, that is touching sense, right? But haywan has got 5 distinct senses, that there is more understanding. Then it becomes to insan. Insan has got also even more understanding. Then we compare the insan with insan alim. We said insan alim, knowledgeable insan, has got even more understanding. So the real hayat is the more understanding, and the real death is what? Is not understanding. Pure illiteracy is you can imagine, if you take all the universes, as a one global thing, which part of it is jamad, part of it is nabat, part of it is haywan, part of it is insan, which is aql also in it, or aql. If you look at it as a whole, one thing, you see, the more you come the more you're top, there is more hayat. The more you come further down towards jamad, you are coming towards death. Because what is this? This means no shu'ur, no understanding, no idrak. That is real death. Okay? So I've left out aql purposely to say this, to reach to it later on. So as a whole we have 8, if you add aql to it, 8 of potencies, if you like. And so can anyone tell me what does this hadith mean? Hell has got 7 doors and heaven has got 8 doors. So that means 7. If there is no aql with these 7 potencies, we end up in hell. If we submit all these 7 potencies to aql, the 8th door is which takes everyone to heaven. Right? This is how I was saying the meaning of hadith and Quran and things becomes more understandable. So we passed vocabulary development. This shows the status of wahm among the other universes that we knew. Okay? Says imagination, wahm and aql. Then I've shown here this is as a whole as aql, but the bottom part of it is wahm.
We can't understand what you say, but we can't imagine that.
You can't?
About what?
You cannot imagine. This is only the first time I have spoken about it.
Yes.
Yeah, further we go, we will know more.
If you can give more examples.
Okay, we will. And I have shown here, I wanted to show here, wahm. If you see wahm, I've made wahm more darker here to show. They say wahm is the gatekeeper. Wahm is gatekeeper, does not allow khiyal goes towards aql. If wahm, they say if khiyal wants to go towards aql, they say wahm say hey stop, you cannot go any further. You have to become nude. You have to put the image and everything behind, otherwise you cannot go up.
Can you say that wahm is controlled khiyal? It's just like with a direction, with an angular motion.
No, it doesn't control it. It's only the difference between wahm and khiyal is in wahm also there is no picture, there is no matter. There is only meaning, but that meaning applies only to one particular thing. That meaning is about juz'i. Tahdid, tahdid. Yes.
Wahm is more specific than aql. Aql is generally.
Exactly. Aql is very universal. As I said, when you are talking about anything in alam aql, we are not talking about any particular. Even when you do this engagement, you do tajarrud of anything. You want to do tajarrud of this wall, or be tajarrud of this computer, or this camera. When you reach to the level of aql, then you only think about the camera at the level of aql is anything which can take those pictures. It doesn't mean that this camera. But if you think about this camera alone here, which with the meaning of what it does, that becomes juz'i or wahmi. Okay? But we talk about more about wahm when we go further. We understand more what the wahm is. But wahm stops khiyal. Because in khiyal, remember in khiyal there is still image. Khayal has got image, but Wahm has no image. In that sense, it's very similar to Aql, because in Aql, let's look at this. 5 by 4 equal 20. This is a Suratul Aqliyah, or they call it an intellectual form. In this intellectual form, or Suratul Aqliyah, 4 by 5 equal 20, right? This is as a whole, any 4 by any 5 if is 20, this is a Suratul Aqliyah. But the moment you take it, that 4 by 5 equal 20, you apply that to 4 oranges by 5 oranges. Right? That 20, that becomes Wahm. Because you have paid attention to something. In Alam Aql, you're not paying attention to anything in here, in around surrounding you. But again, there will be more talk of it. Relationship between universe of intellect and sense intuition, or Wahm. Aql and Wahm. Wahm is the lower part of Aql, or descended Aql. Okay? They have the same. They look the same, very much the same. That's why, as I said, a lot of times we think we are doing ta'aqul, whereas that's tawahum. That's not ta'aqul. That is only Wahm. Because anything that you do, but you are bringing in mind something that cannot be Aql. That is Wahm. Fayaz is very. Sure.
If we think about you and me, for example, me or Abu Nur, and Imam Abu Nur and Khayal, and after that, take Abu Nur as a single person Allah created him. And after that, if you go to the ta'aqul, to the insaniya, humanity. So the humanity is humanity is the aql. But single person, I think about him, like Allah created him there, is one. And then the khayal, and then the...
Exactly. The moment you come to khayal, then you have his picture. But if you pass the picture of Abu Nur and only take Abu Nur as an insan, as a human, but that humanity you think is still about Abu Nur, but without the picture of Abu Nur, that's Wahm. And if you go beyond Abu Nur and say insan as a whole, any insan that Allah has created, and as explained in Quran, all of those things about insan, that is in Alam al-Aql. Very good example. Thank you, Abu Nur. Thank you, Nur. Nur is always helping me. Thank you, Abu Nur, for giving us your example. So the differences is Wahm is descended type of Aql, Fayaz. Aql and Wahm are of the same nature. And Wahm looks at universality of an individual thing, while Aql looks at universality only and has no attention to any individual at all. That's the same thing we discussed. Okay, let's not talk about domain of Shaytan.
So Aql and Wahm is from the same nature, and Wahm and Khayal is from the same nature?
No. Khayal has image. Wahm has no image at all. Don't forget the issue of this engagement, so that you do not confuse. In matter, you have image, you have madde. The moment you take it to khayal, you lose madde. You have the image, right? You close your eyes, you look at me, you have me in alam khayal. The moment you want to take me to alam wahm, you think about insan, but in Seyed Bassam, not in Seyed Bassam image, but in Seyed Bassam what you know of Seyed Bassam, but you compare him with insaniyat, right? So that's in alam wahm.
How would you think of an individual person without?
Yes, I know. All fires. That's the whole difficulty, because we are so much used to think materially. Even the only little thing we can do more than alam matter is alam khayal. We can, because of the dream. Because the fact that Allah has given the dream, then we are able to go in a little bit into alam khayal. But going to alam wahm is difficult. But I tell you where alam wahm comes. How you are using your alam wahm, but you do not notice it.
Right now it's easy to go to alam aql. You know how the way that you say it. But to alam wahm it's a little bit.
Yeah, you will see how you go there. Okay, now let's talk about domain of Shaytan. I wanted to first get a bit of picture of those universes. Domain of Shaytan. No, domain means area, what do you call domain in Farsi? I don't know. Qummat in, is it Arabic?
So, is that what you mean?
No, not, I didn't say dome, domain. Domain means the area where Shaytan is. Zone of Shaytan. Say zone of Shaytan. Shaytan's domain is Wahm. That's number one. Shaytan is called Sultanul Wahm. Okay? Yeah. See, I read this first and then come back and discuss it. Shaytan cannot enter domain of Aql. You know, remember in Surah Baqarah when Allah orders, see, we were used to look at that story of Quran like a very disobedient and mawjud of Allah and all those things. I don't want to say no, that's wrong, but I want to give you a different angle to look at it. Shaitan cannot become, the moment if Shaitan had accepted to prostrate, to do sajda for insan, the moment he had gone to alam aql. Shaitan cannot go to alam aql. Shaitan did sajda to insan because of aql in insan. The purpose of Allah ordering everything to do sajda in insan was aql, by which that insan could gain knowledge, plus that insan is the only thing that can have all the universes. You do not find any other creature that has got all other universes in it. If you look at Jamad, it's only Jamad. You look at Nabat has got only Jamad and Nabat in it. If you look at Haywan, you only see Haywan and Jamad and Nabat.
Can you repeat that last sentence?
I said,
Insan is the only creature.
Insan, I said, if you look at Surah Baqarah, you see, Allah has asked every creature to do sajda for insan, because of one, insan has got aql with which it can attain knowledge. Also, insan has got all the universes, whereas you cannot find any other thing that has got all universes. Nabat is only Nabat. Jamad is only Jamad. Nabat is only Jamad and Nabat, because every universe, as I said, has got the sub-universe in it as well. Haywan has got only Haywaniyat and Nabatiyat and Jamadiyat, right? You all understand when I use these Arabic words?
Yes.
Yeah? And then when it comes to insan, it's only insan. Or even if we take Malaika, they don't have Alam Nabat and Jamad and Haywan, so they don't even understand. That's why they did not understand what Allah was talking about. So it is only insan who has got it, and that's why Shaitan was supposed to do sajda to insan. And Shaitan could not do sajda. If Shaitan did sajda, he would have entered alam aql, but he's not in alam aql. Okay? Shaitan is in Quran is spoken of in two words. One is Iblis, one is Shaitan. Iblis is especially where most of the places you see Quran. I saw today, I think about 9 or 10 places Quran talks about Iblis. It's all about this issue of dialogue between Allah and Malaikatullah and Shaitan and Insan. This is called Iblis. Whereas meaning of Shaitan includes Iblis as well as that Shaitaniyat. Shaitaniyat is, what is the characteristics of Shaitaniyat? Makr, cheating, and there is that devious things that about Shaitan. Shaitan normally do khud'a and makr and deceiving. These are of Shaitan. And if you notice in Quran, even Shaitan when talks to Allah, he says, I go and deceive the people. Because in reality, deception, remember, this is why we say Shaitan is of Alam Awam. Deception is only in Alam Awam. Deception is not a reality. Shaitan can only make things look like something. It can make all those bad things that exist in Alam Madde, Shaitan do taz'een only. Make them look nice to us. Right? When somebody goes outside and is walking in the street and look at a beautiful lady who's passing, Shaytan makes it look nice that that man wants to go and talk to that woman. It goes and he creates all those deceiving. So it doesn't matter. You can go and talk to him. Talking is not a sin. You cannot just talk because you may have the purpose of marrying. So Shaytan is creating all these grounds for us, giving us enough reason not to see the sin as sin.
Shaytan, he put his self at the understand, he said because I don't want them.
Exactly.
Just give them a whisper or something, but he moved and he did the things in the sin. That's the reason I don't have any power on anyone to ask him to do anything. But I just make him do something, as he said, and then he just want to proceed and make this sin happen.
Thank you very much. That was very good. I don't know if it's in Quran or in Hadith. In Quran.
ليس لهم سلطان على الذين إنما السلطان على الذين يتولونه.
I did not have.
For the people who want to or take him as wali or as.
Yeah. So another word, as you said, Shaytan is saying, I did not force him. You have not heard or you have not seen Shaytan comes and takes somebody's hand and when there is a knife in it, say, put it into somebody's heart, right? It only creates things, deceive people. It says, do this, nothing will happen. Do that, nothing will happen. You want to do this, so it is only good. You want, make things look nice for us. They accepted. Okay, so the domain of Shaitan is not aql. Shaitan could have not even do sajda to insan. Domain of aql, another thing, domain of aql is free from Shaitan. That's why, if domain of aql was not free of Shaitan, Malaikatullah would also have Shaitan. And if they had Shaitan, then they had, like us, heaven and hell, and they had also the issue of judgment. That's why angels do not have any judgment. Because why, Fayyaz? Why Malaika have no judgment? There is no judgment day for Malaika.
Because Shaitan is not in the universe of Aql.
Because Shaitan is not in Alam Aql. There is no Shaitan in it. Yes.
I had a question like that. So, is it the limit of the quality of Shaitan which he is made of? He cannot enter the Alam Aql, or he could enter the Alam Aql, but he did not. He chose not to.
No. I prefer to answer this question probably at the end of today's session, inshallah, because when we understand it a little more, it's easier to explain it. So Shaitan does not exist in Alam Aql. It exists in Alam Wahm. And because it's in Alam Wahm, there is gravity. So what I mean by gravity, so let's say I'm sitting at home, and in my thinking I'm thinking, oh my God, having money is so good, having a lot of money is such a good thing. I'm not thinking about any particular money. I'm just thinking, if I had money, I could have bought a big house, I could have done this, right? These are all in my thinking. These are not imagination, these are wahm. And then Shaitan starts to make me think, there's nothing wrong in having money. Look, again, I'm only thinking about individuality of money, what you can do with the money, right? I'll give an example. If I think with myself, when I'm at home, I say, money is something that it can do a lot of things, by which you can do all the things you need. This is in Alam Aql. But the moment I start to think about the money that I can buy a house with, the money I can buy a car with, I'm coming down from Aql to Wahm. Then it has gravity, it comes down, then I say, then I start to look at, if I had the house, then I remember my own situation, right? There is nothing wrong, I can have 3 houses, why should I not have 3 houses, why should I have only 1 house? Then I start to look at myself. Wahm, the particularity of Wahm is brings things into yourself. Wahm is about self, Wahm is about man, Wahm is about I, Wahm is about ego. Wahm brings down the things about me, the person. So long as I think about so long as I think about love of a mother or love of a father to his children. This is in alam aql. Yeah, the love of a father. Every father loves his children. The moment I pay attention, I notice my own self. Oh, how much I love my son. This is one. Immediately I have left alam aql. Why? When do I leave alam aql? The moment I think about self, about an individual, about a person that's dropping down to alam wa. And then the moment that it comes down, it has gravity. It comes down to my own son. Oh, poor my son, he has got this problem. He doesn't have a house. How can I have make money for him? Then that thinking goes. Shaytan is running it. Goes to my, okay, what's wrong with this? Sell this fish a bit more expensive, then you can buy a house for Amir, and then sell this. I don't know the other things that you said. Another, just add 20 more percent you can do this with. So it justifies things. It has not taken my hand to write on my price $20, right? It has only made me think all of these things and put them together and make it a plan so that I can earn more money, and also I can do a lot of other things. So it has gravity. So long as I am in alam aql, I go back again and repeat it. And on alam aql, I'm thinking about the love of a father to his children. It's fantastic, nothing wrong with it. This is in alam aql.
Sadaqah acknowledging the general meaning of sadaqah is from alam aql. But when you think about giving sadaqah, Shaytan interfere and let you think about something beyond you.
The moment it comes to your thinking that I have to give sadaqah, still you cannot say there is Shaytan here. It comes to wahm definitely.
But Shaytan can enter in.
Exactly. Shaytan from here can enter and say, why do you still have to give so much sadaqah? Yeah, you need it for your children, you need it for this, you need it for that. So Shaytan can only enter from when it comes to wahm, which is about self, about me, about I, about us. Right? That
the wahm comes when it interferes with your thinking.
No, the wahm is when it interferes with yourself. It comes out of that universal thing that what such a good thing is sadaqah, giving sadaqah is such a good thing, it's recommended by Allah. This is all in aql. The moment you start to want, okay, now I want to give sadaqah, it's wahm. Then Shaytan comes in and do all of those things about it. Okay? Domain of aql is free of Shaytan. So that's why Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I think something is goes wrong. Inni aslamtu shaytani, something like that exists. I have written it if I look for it. Or shaytani aslamu alayhi. But you all understand what it means, right? It means I made my shaytan Muslim. Prophet sallallahu said, I converted my shaitan to Islam. What does that mean? That means Prophet dominance in all his quwa, in all his potencies is aql. There is no second that Prophet sallallahu he forget about aql. He's always, whatever he does, even when Prophet is eating, he eats it while he's in alam aql. What does that mean? That means he eats it because food is required for the body to keep this body going. That's the way he thinks about it. But I eat it because I feel hungry and I'm enjoying my food. See, there is a big difference between this eating and that eating. So when he eats, because of that, so he only eats enough for keeping his body going. He doesn't eat to enjoy it. Does it make sense?
Yes.
When the temptation starts dealing with one and then comes down to khiyar, to give me an example, and then to mother.
It comes to khiyar, that means it comes, then you see a picture of a big house, nice house, right?
You took a picture and what?
No, it's not that. While it's that, there is no picture. Once you started to think, oh, I bought that house, a house with a big lake in front of it. You have given a picture to your thinkings, right? That becomes khiyar. Then you go in alam madhi, you want to go and find something like that and buy. Practically it becomes material. So whenever we notice the self, okay, temptation also, what I said was about temptation. It starts from that, okay? I give a hadith from Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Can somebody tell me what time is it, please?
12 past 5.
Okay. لولا ان الشياطين يهومون على قلوب بني آدم لنظروا على ملكوت السماء. This is from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Had it not been that devils are around the hearts of sons of Adam, indeed they would see barzakh of the sky, or the kingdom of God. Malakut, you all remember what was Malakut? Alam Malakut was which alam? Alam khiyal, barzakh. Yes. Yeah, we do not see you usually, but just normally we cannot see alam khiyal or alam barzakh. But why we cannot see? Because from there they call it kingdom of God. Why we cannot see? Because Shaytan is all the time surrounding us, surrounding our heart. There was another interesting hadith which very helpful. I should find this.
That the Shaytan are not looking for
that means if we are able to pass alam wahm, then we can see malakut samawat.
So this another way for the human being.
Yeah, that's for the human being. Human being, that law is, I think that's law of ta'kid. La nazaru. Indeed, human being can look at malakut samawat. There is another interesting hadith. I don't have it there. I read it here. Inna shaytana. Let me write it if anyone. You don't have the pen, right?
Right.
You do. ليجري This hadith is very interesting, which is very helpful to understand more how to combat with Shaytan. It is إن الشيطان لا يجري من ابن آدم مجرى الدم فتيزغ مجاريه بالجوع فتزيغ مجاريه بالجوع. Indeed, Shaytan يجري means when something is having a current, jarayan, you know, something which has current. And indeed Shaytan is current. You understand current? Like a current of electricity, something which has got a continual presence. It's called current. Indeed Shaytan is current in Ibn Adam, in human being. Majrad dam means dam is blood, means in his current of blood. And Shaytan is available, is prevailing in a human being in his current of blood. Fatazayyagu, make it tight, make that current tight for him. With what? Bilju', with hunger. Do you understand what it meant? Indeed Shaytan exists, prevails in insan in his blood current. Keep that current tight and try to close it by hunger. Understand?
Half of it.
No. See, it says, it's very clear. I don't know why am I not saying it good enough so you don't understand it. It says Shaytan exists in insan through his blood current. What makes blood current? Food. No, that's it.
Material.
But eating, food, where it makes Shaytan. Shaytan is created by eating. Right?
Does it mean that when you're hungry you don't think of enough?
You try it, you see in Ramadan how much less inclination you have towards any sin, isn't it? In Ramadan, usually people have less inclination to do any sin, and they have more inclination to do good things. That is because of the hunger.
All the fights everywhere, or it's for the food. I mean, people they invade another country for water. System with this, all of them.
What you say is right, but the point here is the moment eating starts. So I refer you to another part of the story of insan. Look, in Seyed Insan was in Behesht. The moment ate, what happened? Came down to this life, to this world. The moment it ate, that was a material eating. That because the moment we eat, all other shahawat are created from the shahwat of eating. Because eating is also part of shahwat. Shahwat is not only a sexual desire. There's a general meaning of shahwat is that desire for eating is also called shahwat.
Can I ask you something? Yes. Those people, especially the Hindu people who abstain from food for many days, that's what we have heard, and they get some sort of qualities in them.
Yeah.
Would you say that they are more close towards an apple than those Muslims who do practice life as a normal?
Yeah, what happens for those people who do go on hunger and those what do you call riyazat? They are called riyazat. They do. What happens? They in that universe of avalim you look at, they go higher. They go to alam barzakh. They reach to barzakh. They can see. They can do a lot of things that we are amazed of. But they cannot go beyond where Shaytan exists. They can even go up to the wahm. But I doubt it very much, because is a pure universe. If anyone reaches to alam he must understand a lot of things about Imam Ma'asumin and religion. That's even there are an example of it is there are a lot of urafa of Sunni sect. When they have done a lot of practice, I have seen their books myself. I have some of them at home. That you look, they talk about Abu Bakr and Omar, and you have no doubt they are Sunni. But in the meantime, you see they have about Mahtabiyat, they have about Imam Zaman, they have about. What happens? After a level, if you enter that alam, you have to see the reality. The reality is not more than one. So they start to see the haqiqat, the reality, but because they have lived in an era and an environment of Sunnism, they have not come and changed. Okay, they could have not gone and bluntly condemn anybody in their previous beliefs. But I have got books at home that even you may have heard of Mawlaviya, Maulana Jalaluddin Rumi. It's very famous. A lot of good poetry of Masnavi. Why you don't know? Because I heard that even Afghanis have a lot of respect for him.
But overall, I heard from most Sunnis, they said they do believe in Mahdi. they do believe in 15th.
No, they do, but they have a different. They think Mahdi is not born even yet. They accept the whole concept. So when somebody, your answer is when they reach, they do not go to Alam Aql. If they go to Alam Aql and they are free from Shaytan, then they should see the reality.
For my understanding that when people become hungry, the Shaytan will control more than when he's not full, but he's normal. I mean, when people starving from hunger, that is Imam Ali he said, if the hunger is a man, I will kill him. Because this one, somebody is hungry, could be Shaytan comes around, he can't go and thief things, he can't go and steal things, he can't go and rip things, because he's hungry. It could be to the other extent, the Shaytan will be controlled.
No, Abu Nur, what we are talking is not starving. It's a hunger that you control. It controls the hunger that you give to yourself. It's different from starvation. Yes, that's a different thing.
If you have food in front of you and you prefer not to eat than eating, but in otherwise, of course, he is very rare, and that again that clears up the confusion further. That someone is deprived of food, he doesn't have any.
So, but this is as opposed, that hunger that we are talking here is not a starvation, number one. Number two is as opposed to that eating that you keep eating, right? When you keep eating, of course, we all have experienced. The more eating, the more those things that you spoke of, ghazab and shahwat and shaytaniyat will become alive in human being. Whereas, remember, for instance, when we are fasting in Ramadan, in Maha Ramadan, do you have all the feelings that you said? Do you have it? Do you feel like you want to go and steal something? You don't feel that, because that's a controlled hunger and certain principles. For instance, the hunger that is said is recommended, even not during the fasting, even just as a normal dietary recommendation, we have that eat twice a day, and between the two eating, don't eat anything. That gives that hunger that one needed. That is what I call is a safe hunger, which is different from starvation. What? Yeah, I think so. I'm not sure now. I cannot tell you the exact. This is we read that hadith. Inna shaytana la yajri min ibn Adama from. Yeah, yes, that is hadith. So majrad dam. So from that we concluded that this is clearly saying Shaytan is by eating. It's created by eating. Okay. Okay, I said this as well. So Allama Hassan Zadeh has got a very nice saying. He says, insan is such a creature that, the nafs is such a creature, nafs of insan, that if you kill 124,000 prophets in front of him and say, okay, now please leave me alone. If you do qurbani of killing of 124,000 of prophets of Allah for nafs and say, tell him I do this and you leave me alone. You do it, he still wants more. And he says, the only thing which can control this, nafs is so wild, it does not stop anywhere. The more you give it to it, the more it wants, isn't it? This is the experience of every individual. And if you give so much up to killing of all the prophets of Allah, still it doesn't leave you alone. The only thing which can stop it is hunger. But that hunger of starvation that makes you feel wild, you want to go, and that is only as much as you take and eat, that's enough. If that's only for eating. Otherwise, that type of feeling which is created from starvation is not a feeling that you want to do all those crime acts which you can do with full stomach. If you eat all the time, and if you not only you eat with a lot of tanabbu and diversity, and you feed your nafs. Feeding the nafs, which makes all these things become, make the nafs so wide that it does not stop anywhere. So is it more clear, Abu Nur, that the starvation thing, it does not though it makes you do sin and still one thing, but when you eat and you become, okay, then you're fine, you go back and you don't do it again for another time that you become that much hungry. Yes.
What do you mean by when you said eating with tanawwur?
Tanawwur means eating so many things, diverse, you have variety of foods in your dish.
My question is, again this question comes in my mind quite often, that these Westerners in the Western countries, they are so health conscious, they do diet, they are very careful about eating, and still they have the desires everywhere. So where can we link this formula towards having superiority of aql over material?
No, I just told you, so long as you, even if they reach to alam wah, which is very high alam, still shaitan can be with them. They are not free of shaitan.
So they are more capable of controlling the waham because of their habits, maybe?
Definitely they get a lot of strengths. If you keep the hunger gives a lot of strengths. And the good example was those Hindus that you said. So I think I have said, but of course this is part 1 of Shaitan. Next week we will have another part of Shaitan. I made it in 2 parts. But remember, all of these things I said about wahm, it was not to condemn wahm. I was not telling wahm is something bad. I was just telling how it is. Because after all, Allah has created, wherever there is a talk of human being, there is a talk of Shaitan as well, and there is a talk of wahm. Otherwise, it was just to explaining it. It wasn't to say wahm is something, because Shaitan is Sultan of wahm, Shaitan is the king of wahm. It doesn't mean wahm is something, bad. You shouldn't have it.
Okay, so there comes another thing, that if you somebody says that, I don't know, you don't actually admit it, that wahm is part of universal aql, then it shouldn't be part of universal aql, because Shaitan is the king of wahm, right?
No,
Shaitan is not supposed to be in universal.
What I said is the lower part of it, because the reason is they have very similar nature. A lot of times one would think when you're doing something with you're using your wahm, a lot of times you think you're using your mind, your intellect, while it's wahm. They have similar nature. Nature of it are very similar to each other. So as I said, if you remember, the way I explain it is, you have the meaning of something, but in aql you have the meaning of a general thing, not about any individual phone. The very meaning of this individual phone is in wahm, but universality of phone is in aql. They have similar nature.
Does it have any relation to the possession, the feeling of possession?
Yeah, that's bad. Immediately.
If you detach yourself from me and mine, does things become universal?
So that practicing, that getting rid of this feeling of mine, this is mine, that should become mine, my sons, my wife, myself, right? That the thing, trying to get rid of this feeling is working towards going to alam aql, working towards that. That's why it is said that, I remember this from Imam Khomeini rahmatullah alayhi. He used to say, if all the prophets were existing today in one place, they would never have any fight, any quarrel, any problem, because they all, this is from me, not from him, this part, because they are all aql dominant. They are not in wahm, they are not in alam wahm. In alam aql there is no shaitan, there is no problem. All these wanting more and then and trying to deprive others from things, it is below of wahm and comes to alam matter, to alam madde. And a hadith from Prophet sallallahu, I forgot to say this, that never shaitan becomes mutamassil. I've told you about tamassul. Tamassul becomes portrait. Take the image of something. That's tamassul. Prophet sallallahu says, man ra'ani faqad ra'ani fa inna shaytana la yumassalu bi. Means whoever sees me in the dream, for instance, he has only seen me. He cannot be shaitan in my to make himself look like me, because Prophet is insan kamil, right? perfect human. So I'll finish and leave the thing for the second session of next week. And if there is any question, I answer. If not,
So the Shaytan will say that he's alim wahm, that he can resurrect anyone for the material universal. Can the Shaytan he can make resurrect this universal, and he can
Shaytan himself
come in sort of human
look like somebody? Yeah, it can. As I said, this is not in the nature of Shaitan to look like human being, but it can be made like that. That is a tamassul. Yeah, it can be. Yeah, it can look like human being.
Because in the day of the insect,
Yes.
first one, someone you can to first hadith was
The Shaitan.
The Shaitan. And was the image of
Someone, yeah.
So he can move from universal this alam to another alam, and he can come back.
Yeah, but he cannot be in alam akh, of course. Yeah. That's right. That's right.
So, does that mean that Shaitan cannot have a tamassul in alam al-akh?
In tamassul like prophets.
Okay.
He cannot make himself look like prophet. So a very important conclusion was, as I said, I repeat it, wherever there is a talk of insan, there is Shaitan too. So we don't have anywhere in Quran, if you look at wherever there is a talk of creation of insan, there is immediately talk of Shaitan. And of course they say there is also, of course when I say insan means Adam and Hawa both, doesn't matter which one. And now probably if you take this story in the universal meaning of the story, look at the universal meaning of the story in Quran, then you are not probably so much after that to know, okay, how was Hawa created, and how did he marry Adam, and how did they, because these are mostly they are in alam akh, they have universal meaning. Adam is a universal being. Do you understand?
It's not a particular person that lives
You can think of it. Maybe, I'm not sure. I'm just giving you another notion of things, that maybe this is only a universal being. But remember, it's subject that you immediately, because universal being is in alam akh, and because we are used to think anything in alam akh does not exist, but it does exist, right? But whether it exists in this alam, we can think about it. Adam and Eve. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm saying think about it. Could it be that this is only a universal meaning of Adam and Eve?
Like the prophets as well?
No prophet. Because Adam, remember, Adam in Quran, the way he talks about it, the dialogue with Shaitan in Jannah, that can be a very universal meaning only. But I have to say that I have not heard this, I have not read this anywhere. So this is only what I think. This is something that you can think about. Because the whole issue of a lot of all these things that we read, the purpose is we ponder upon them and try to understand them, try to see how are they possible, how are they used. So one of the notions of issue of Adam and Shaitan for me is always, I think, could this be only universal stories, or whether there is an Adam who has come on the earth? One of the I give this a story, especially for Arab people, Arab language people. This is a definition of wahm. It's not hadith. It's from one of the ulama. Definition of wahm. Definition of Iblis. Iblisun huwa al-quwwatul wahmiyatul kulliyah. Al-Iblisun huwa al-quwwatul wahmiyatul kulliyah allati fi alamil kabir. Again, Iblisun huwa al-quwwatul wahmiyatul kulliyah allati fi alamil kabir. في العالم الكبير. Yeah, that's a definition of Iblis. Yes.
don't know about this question. Would you be able to give a point, like what's the point of having, what's the main reason for having alam, or what's the reason to have one?
What is?
Yeah, what's the main point? Why would you have it?
If you don't have it, you're like a malaika.
Okay.
Why? Allah had malaika. He didn't need to bring another malaika. As I said, the moment the issue of Adam exists, human being exists, issue of Shaytan is with him. That you have heard probably, there are many hadiths that when any child which is born, 7 Shaytan is born with him. These hadiths, one side of meaning is we think somebody really is born, or because the moment that insan, that child is linked to the milk of the mother, eating starts, and with eating, من ابن آدم مجرى الدم, it starts in the blood. Look at that. إن الشيطان ليجري من ابن آدم مجرى الدم. That is in the blood. What makes the blood? Food. So what creates Shaytan? Shaytan is created by food.
Can I get my answer now?
Yeah.
The question was asked earlier. Was Shaitan capable of going into Adam and Apple, or was he restricted by his creation, like his?
I refer you to this. Go and think about this. This is very much related to what I just said. Go and think whether these are universal. These stories, universal stories, are only universal at the Alam Akh.
Okay.
Right?
Sure.
Give us the definition of Alam Allah was the word. The right definition. We don't know the khayal and aql and everything, but the word is something about doubt.
No.
What word?
Our Nur is very important.
This word comes for somebody, he says, don't do mistakes, don't do we write, we use this name word when we say to anybody, don't do, let's say, comes with mistakes or doubt or not exactly, or I'm not sure. This is what has come to this bracket.
Abu Nur, as I said in one of the sessions that I remember you were present as well, when we do this study of Anfusi understanding, those meaning of a lot of words that we knew before, we have to put them aside. Not that you have to forget them, but we have to learn new meaning for them. So these words, for instance, me and you, we both knew what is khiyal. Okay, we knew what is matter. But now we are finding new meanings for matter, how it relates to khiyal, and how khiyal relates to aql. So Wam, I know, I have seen it myself. I have used it as well many times, like something unreal.
Yes.
This is mohum. We say in Farsi, it is mohum.
Can you say that it is tadyin al-umur, if you can translate?
Tazyin al-umur for what? Translate for what word?
For the wahm. For the shade, Iblis.
Yes, Ahsan, yes, definitely. Yes. I agree with that.
But this is very close to Adam. Very close. This is one between khiyal and aql.
He said it is very close to aql. But it is tadyin al-umur. For example, Shaytan, it will make you that this thing is nice, good for you, but it is not good. So
Shaytan lives in Alam al-Wahm. And as I said, let's get from here again. The universal meaning. Do you remember the word ma'ghul? Something which becomes ma'ghul for you. What you do tajarrud to something, to anything, to my computer. Do tajarrud about it, right? In your tajarrud, you go one level up. You go to picture of it. You only see the picture. You don't have it here, right? Then you do another level up. You go. Forget about Wahm now. Go to Alam Aql. In Alam Aql, what you know about, you do not look at my computer. You close your eyes and think, you think about computer and what it does. What is a computer made for? You can imagine that in your you have a meaning as a whole in your mind for computer. Put that meaning that you have for your computer, put it into my computer. That's Wahm. immediately becomes bad. They are so close, it's difficult to distinguish them. Then you have no computer in mind when you think about what is computer doing for you. Computer is doing all those things, all those software calculations. I don't know, there's not one word to say for a computer. There are many things but all those many things exist in your mind, right? If you want to talk it out, probably it takes you 20 minutes to describe it. But as a whole, you know, when I refer to it, you know what I mean. That thing that is referred in your mind to for computer, that's ma'qul. Tajarrud in level of aqli. But give the same thing to this computer. But not picture, still no picture. In your mind, think about that thing that computer does, but think about my computer, Saeed's computer which does the same thing that any other computer does. That is in alam bahth. But implications, what are masadiq? You want masadiq now, okay? Masadiq of it is, as I said, I give you an example of, when you think how computer is good, what things it does, and you think about the things it does, that is in alam bahth. Then you bring it down to alam bahth, you give it to a computer in computer shop. You look at the computer shop and still look at what it does. Such a good things it does. This big computer, it is 2.8 megahertz processor, and it has got 1,000 gigabytes. And then when you imagine, when you visualize, not visualize when giving picture, bringing all those abilities in mind from your alam bahth, you give it to this computer in the shop, that becomes bahth. The moment you start to think, if I can have this computer, these are all in bahth. What if I can have this computer? It's very good to have this computer. Then you are brought it down immediately. You are falling down very quickly. Falling down from alam bahth to alam bahth and lower al-awalim is very easy. In fact, climbing up, reaching to alam bahth is very difficult. It takes a lot of work, and I don't know whether we can get there even a minute a day or not. So I don't know, I'm sorry, my explanation is not good enough. But
why is word in English?
Sense intuitive. Sense intuitive is what, as I said, Professor Chitik has used. I've written it here, sense intuition.